Hello, my name is Pam Jackson, and today I'll be talking about my bottleneck. The bottleneck for my students was that students found the theory of social construction difficult to understand and apply to the idea of race. This bottleneck resulted in students underestimating the sociological explanations for racial disparities and relying more on biological or deterministic explanations for a wide range of behaviors. I turned to a practical analogy of construction, along with the concepts familiar to them when building a house. And I had the students apply those concepts to passages of text taken from multiple historical sources. As they watch a video of a house being constructed, they are encouraged to take notes on what they see. After the video, they are given a handout that has a variety of short paragraphs on a single page. At the bottom of the page, I ask them to identify in the text an example of the building process. They're asked to note a case of excavation, which refers to digging a new space, removing existing earth or material, in this case people. Items being removed during excavation or are viewed as useless. Foundation, pouring the footings. The foundation involves securing the impending structure. The structure is still within a hole and out of sight. Importantly, I want them to think about the foundation of a culture that is being established. Another concept is framing. That refers to attaching additional material to the foundation. Framing often moves upward to create the ground level. Here, I tell them it's important to note that frames hide or cover what is inside. New materials are often used at additional levels that represents boundaries between spaces and protection from different views or perspectives. From there, I ask them to denote the type of material being used or described in the passages of text. The students apply related concepts to several historical sources. For example, cinder blocks are our social systems. Bricks represent our policies or our laws. Pebbles are our culture. That includes attitudes, norms, language. And finally, plywood. That is the structure, like media. Students mark the text where they see the construction of race in this essay by Ben Franklin. As he says, why should the Palatine boars be suffered to swarm into our settlements, and by herding together establish their language and manners to the exclusion of ours? Why should Pennsylvania, founded by the English, become a colony of aliens who will shortly be so numerous as to Germanize us instead of our anglifying them, and will never adopt our language or customs any more than they can acquire our complexion? The number of purely white people in the world is proportionably very small. All Africa is black or tawny. Asia, chiefly tawny. America, exclusive of the newcomers, wholly so. Why increase the sons of Africa by planting them in America? Benjamin Franklin, 1751. Before and after this exercise, students wrote for 2 minutes to answer the question, what is race? On the pre-test, students were writing more words and were more repetitive. On the post-test, students adopted the language of social constructionism. Let's look at some examples of student writing. In the pre-test, one student said, race is a collection of an individual's culture, potentially their language and nationality and their heritage. I think race is also the associations that people place onto other groups of people. In the post-test, the student said, race is a modern classification scheme devised by Linnaeus and reconstructed by Blumenberg. In a pre-test, another student said, race is a complex concept that can describe an individual. Certain factors include skin color, geography, culture, religion, nationality. a defining feature in everyday society that leads to prejudice and discrimination. In the post-test, this student said, race started at a certain time and place, took certain elements over time to create race. And another student in the pre-test said race is how a person identifies themselves. It can be based on skin color, geography, physical attributes, etc. It is a combination of genetic characteristics, background, and cultural upbringing that make up a person and how they identify themselves. In the post-test, this student said, race is the social construction of categorization of humans by phenotypical and cultural characteristics, which is found to not be an accurate compartmentalization of humans. For a paper assignment that I assigned mid-semester, students were able to identify segments of the readings that relied upon a social constructionist understanding of race. For this paper assignment, students were asked to read articles and then summarize them in 4 to 5 typed pages. They were to discuss what is race to you in the final paragraphs. They were asked to identify examples of social construction. 68% of the class earned an A on that assignment. 26% earned a B, and 6% earned a C or lower. So the most important things I learned in this bottleneck lesson is to actually take time out to identify bottlenecks that are critical for further learning of the material. To also be willing to incorporate new ways to explaining an old concept. To not assume that a particular perspective is self-explanatory. To evaluate student knowledge prior to teaching about a particular subject, concept, or theory. And to get feedback from students immediately following an important lesson, and in the long term to determine what elements of the lesson are retained. So what went well? Well, I was very pleased with the papers they submitted. This was by far the best set of papers I've read, having asked this question of several classes in the past 10 years. But I would change some things. So on the pre and post CAT, I would probably give them less time to answer this question in order to get gut reactions. I would also identify who has already taken classes and then separate the results based on previous classes taken. Thank you.